So in this video, I'm going to give you the step-by-step process on how to become a nurse practitioner. And this is a question I get quite often, so I'm about to answer it. If you're new to my page, welcome. And I'm your favorite NP mentor here, dual certified in acute care and adult gerontology, primary care, nurse practitioner, also with my DNP. Enough about me. Let's get into this video. So the first thing is you need to have your BSN. So in order to get into any nurse practitioner program, you must have a BSN. So if you are an LPN, you can work on going from LPN to BSN, or you can do LPN to associates, and then after you get your associates, you get your BSN. Whatever pathway it is for you to get to your BSN is easiest for you, given if you have children, if you are a single mom or a single dad, whatever your situation is, you want to pace yourself so that you end up with that BSN. So a lot of these nurse practitioner programs require you to have at minimum an undergrad GPA of about 3.0 to 3.2. Now, these programs include acute care, adult gerontology, primary care, women's health, psych. Most of these programs at minimum require a 3.0 GPA. Now, I will say that when I graduated from nursing school, my GPA was a 2.999, and they do not round up. Okay, so if it's a 2.99, it's a 2.99. Needless to say, that doesn't mean that if you don't meet the requirements for that particular program, let's say like me, it was a 2.99, that doesn't necessarily mean you won't get in. I still encourage you to apply. Now, when I went to nursing school back then, I had just come out of high school, wasn't really focused, and I was dropping classes, not doing well in others, and that really affected my GPA. Now, how you start, I'm going to just say this. How you start does not determine how you will finish, okay? So I didn't do that great in undergrad up until the last 2-3 years of my program. And then after then, I started to study and do well. And by this time, my GPA had already taken a hit and I ended up with a 2.99. Now moving forward, I did the DNP program. I got all A's in that. Acute care program, all A's in that. And the adult gerontology primary care program, I got all A's in that also. I'm not saying that to gloat about like my grades, because who cares? What I'm saying is I got into school with a 2.99, so I do not want you to not apply because you feel that you are not good enough. Okay, still apply. That's the purpose of saying this in this video. Now, depending on which track you're interested in, so let's say you're interested in acute care, they typically want you to have about a year of experience in acute care. Now, I'm just going to briefly say that I don't think you should apply to an acute care program unless you've worked in acute care, right? Now, there are a lot of programs out here that will just take any nurse from any area of nursing, regardless if they have experience or not. But my suggestion to you is find a good school, reputable school, and make sure that you are positioning yourself to do well in that program. So in other words, if you want to be a midwife, right, then if you're working in telemetry, go work in OB, go work in maternity, like go in those areas that you can care for those particular patient populations versus you are a telemetry nurse and you're like, oh, I want to be a midwife, but you've never even taken care of a patient that just had a baby, right? So my advice to you is go in the direction or area of nursing where you want to practice. because that will help you to better transition. That will help you to be a better nurse practitioner for that particular department. So you want to do acute care, go work in acute care, right? So that you understand how to care for that particular patient population. So that would be my advice to anybody that wants to get into a particular specialty. Make sure you work in that specialty. Another thing that they want in these programs is that they want a letter of reference, one either from a supervisor and one from a colleague. Now, I remember that one of the nurses had asked his supervisor to do a reference for him, and she said she would do it, but when the time came down to it, she kept saying, oh, I'm gonna get it to you, I'm gonna get it to you. And now it was like a day before it was due or 2 days before it was due, and she didn't do it for him. So I say this to say, be very, very selective who you choose to do your reference. Because I'm gonna tell you, they have some secret haters out here who wish they had the courage to go back to school, who wish they had the means to go back to school, right? And when they see that you're doing something that they've ultimately maybe always wanted to do, sometimes people can be vindictive and try to either tarnish your image and write a bad reference for you, or they just might pretend like, oh, no problem, I'll do your reference, and then never give it to you. So I say this to say, be very selective who you choose. Just don't choose anybody because you need a reference. This is important because this will determine if you get into the program. Okay? So somebody that you trust, somebody you know, somebody that in your heart you know is a good person. Right? I would like you to choose that person. And somebody in a position of leadership, maybe it might be a doctor that you've worked with, right? That you've had a particular rapport with. That doctor can serve as a reference, right? So anybody that's in a position of leadership, right, can write this reference for you. Even if it's another nurse practitioner that has worked closely with you. I've done recommendations for a lot of the nurses that I've worked with. And I only do it for those that I truly believe should be going into this specialty. I'm not the kind of person that's just gonna write a reference for anyone. Not behind my name, I will not. So it could be a nurse practitioner, it could be a physician, it could be a nurse manager, but whoever it is, be very, very particular who you choose because people are not who they appear to be. I'm just gonna say that. And they will pretend like they are happy for you, but in the inside, they are wishing you to fail. And if you got any sort of inclination, any sort of feeling, any sort of gut, any intuition that's telling you not to use somebody as a reference, I 100% encourage you to listen to that voice. I did it one day and I paid the price when that little voice told me to be careful with somebody and I didn't listen. So that little voice talking to you, my advice is listen. So one of the other things is that some of these schools are now going from BSN to DNP. Now, if you are not interested in getting your DNP, because usually the DNP programs take a lot longer. They can take up to about 4 years, 5 years. You know, it really depends on if you're going full-time or part-time. So you have to be very mindful when you're getting into these programs because it could be a little lengthy. Like I said, it could be anywhere from 3 years to even 5, especially if you're going part-time. So if you want to just do the master's component from BSN to master's, then I suggest you look for a program that will do just that. Because some of these programs are designed to just take you straight to a DNP. And if you're not interested in a DNP, then that is something that you will 100% have to make sure you look into. And if you are enjoying this video so far, please make sure you hit that like button and make sure that you subscribe because I got a lot more information coming your way. I got a lot of information in this brain that I'd like to share. So if you want to learn from moi, which I'm sure you do, make sure that you subscribe. All right, let's go. And do not forget that you will have to do clinicals. Clinicals is super important. Now, every school has a certain amount of clinical hours that are required. So that really all depends on your school. So your school might require you to do, let's say, 500 hours for the semester. So that's for that semester, you need to make sure, in addition to doing your didactum, you will also have to do your clinical hours. So if you're working full-time, you want to do this, then you have to take into consideration that clinical hours are a must. Don't forget about that, because that's super important when it comes to figuring out if you have the time to become a nurse practitioner. If you're working 2 jobs, that's something to consider, because it's going to be hard to do that and go to clinicals and still pass all your classes. So keep that in mind. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. See you later. Bye.